Karen was screaming so loud it startled the crows off the roof. She had bear spray in one hand and her torn purse in the other, both feet tangled in hay, trying not to fall as two big dogs circled her like they'd done this before. She spun around, panicking, but there was no way out. One dog blocked the barn door, and the other just watched her every move. Then, from somewhere in the shadows, a voice broke the silence. Calm, steady. "Tango, heel. Don't nip her unless she moves again." That froze her. She turned slowly towards the sound, and there she was. Melissa, the sheriff's wife, standing with her arms crossed, not surprised at all. She didn't look angry. She didn't even raise her voice. She just stood there like this was something she dealt with all the time. The dogs backed off slightly but stayed alert, ready. Karen's hand shook around the can of spray, but it was clear now. This wasn't her show anymore. She wasn't in charge. Not even close. It started early in the morning, just before the sun came up. The barn was quiet, still covered in fog, with a single orange light glowing inside. A big metal sign on the fence clearly said, "No trespassing. Agricultural property. Security cameras in use." But Karen didn't care. She read it, rolled her eyes, and kept walking like it didn't apply to her. She was carrying a clipboard, a flashlight, and some fake violation forms she printed off the internet. In her mind, this wasn't trespassing. It was a community inspection. She was on one of her little missions again, like when she writes people up for leaving trash bins out too long or watering their lawns on the wrong day. But this time, it wasn't even her neighborhood. The barn sat on the edge of ranch land, 2 miles outside her subdivision. It didn't matter to her. Someone had mentioned hearing dogs late at night, and Karen convinced herself that something shady was going on. Maybe unlicensed breeding, maybe illegal boarding. She didn't have proof, just a story she built in her head. Still, she made a plan. She drove out alone, thinking no one would be awake. She truly believed she was catching someone red-handed. In her eyes, she was protecting the community. But really, she was just poking around where she didn't belong, chasing a problem that didn't exist. Karen crept up the gravel path, each step crunching under her cheap hiking boots. She paused at the side door of the barn, looked around once, and pushed it open with a dramatic sigh like she was entering a crime scene. Inside, the barn was warmer than she expected. The air smelled like hay, old wood, and something faintly sharp. Maybe cleaning supplies or animal medicine. Stacks of hay bales lined the walls, tools hung neatly from hooks, and an orange bulb flickered above, casting a shaky light across the floor. Karen stepped in, holding her flashlight in one hand and her phone in the other. She started snapping pictures of everything: walls, hooks, feed bags, muttering to herself about evidence and violations. She spoke like someone collecting proof for a fake trial. "Unlicensed animals," she whispered. "Illegal boarding, gotcha." Then it happened. A low growl, deep and steady, came from the shadows. Karen froze. Her phone dropped slightly, her flashlight beam shaking. One of her boots got caught in some twine, but she didn't dare move. From the dark, a large dog stepped forward, solid build, eyes locked on her, completely silent except for that warning sound. He didn't bark. He didn't lunge. He just stared like he was waiting for her to make a mistake. Karen's hand tightened around the bear spray, but she already knew. She wasn't alone, and she wasn't in control anymore. Karen's eyes darted around the barn, but there was nowhere to go. As she turned, a second dog stepped out of the shadows. This one was lighter in color, a little older maybe, with a thin scar down his side and an ID tag clipped to his collar. He moved without sound and took his place in front of the door, cutting off her way out. The first dog still hadn't taken his eyes off her. They weren't barking. They weren't growling anymore. They were just there, quiet, steady, and waiting. Karen's hand trembled as she tried to raise the bear spray, but her fingers slipped. The can dropped to the ground with a soft clunk. That's when a figure stepped forward from the darker corner of the barn. Slow, calm steps. Melissa Carson walked into the dim light wearing a jacket, boots, and a cap with the Sheriff's Department logo. No weapon, no yelling, just presence. She looked at Karen the way a teacher looks at a student who just got caught cheating. "I see you've met Tango," she said, nodding toward the first dog. "And the one at the door is Buck." "I'd stay very still if I were you." Karen's mouth opened, probably to start another excuse, but Melissa didn't even let her get that far. She tilted her head slightly and pointed to the top corner of the barn. A tiny red light blinked quietly above a mounted camera. "Smile," Melissa said, almost bored. "You've been on camera since the second you walked past the fence." Karen's face dropped. Her eyes flicked to the camera, then to the dogs, then back to Melissa like she was trying to find a way out. I thought I heard something. A lost cat, maybe," she stammered. Melissa didn't flinch. "That's your third version of the story," she said calmly. "Try again." Karen's body stiffened, trying to stand tall, but her voice cracked. "You can't just turn dogs on people." Melissa poured herself a small cup of coffee from a thermos and didn't even look at her when she answered. "We didn't. You trespassed. They followed their training." At that moment, Tango walked up, still calm, holding something gently in his mouth. He dropped it at Melissa's feet. The bear spray can. Not crushed, not damaged, just collected like it was a toy he was told to fetch. Melissa looked down at it, then back at Karen. "Lucky for you, they were in a good mood." The sound of tires on gravel broke the silence as a sheriff's cruiser rolled up to the barn. The sun had started to rise fully now, casting a soft orange light over the pasture. Sheriff Wade stepped out, calm as ever, and closed the car door without slamming it. He adjusted his hat and walked toward the barn like this was just another stop on his morning route. Melissa didn't say a word. She just gave him a small nod and stepped aside. Karen looked like she might cry. She stood there in the hay, dust on her jacket, hair a mess, and tried to put on a voice that sounded innocent. "Sheriff, I didn't mean anything by it. I thought something was wrong. I heard barking." Wade cut her off without raising his voice. "You trespassed onto a registered rehab facility, brought bear spray near working animals, tried to pass off fake violation papers. That's impersonation of a county official." His tone never changed. No anger, just facts. Karen's mouth hung open. She looked from Wade to Melissa and then to the dogs, who were now sitting quietly but still watching her. "This is all just a big misunderstanding," she said weakly. Wade shook his head once. "You can explain that to the judge." By the time Friday's town council meeting rolled around, Karen had already started spinning her story online. Her Facebook was full of dramatic posts claiming she was attacked, left shaken, and just trying to protect the community. She even showed up to the meeting wearing a neck brace, though anyone who'd seen her at the grocery store the day before knew she didn't need it. She walked in carrying printed photos from her phone, looking like she was ready to lead some kind of courtroom drama. But the room wasn't buying it. At the far end of the table sat Riley Carson, Melissa and Wade's daughter. She was sharp, calm, and barely 25, but she carried herself like someone twice her age. Karen started in with her speech, calling the dogs dangerous, the barn unlicensed, and herself a victim of abuse. She claimed there was no clear signage and said she was only doing a routine check for community safety. Riley didn't get emotional. She simply leaned forward and said, "That barn has been registered for trauma recovery and service dog training since last year. The documents are public. You ignored them." She then pulled up zoning maps, rehab approvals, and printed proof that Karen's fake citations came from a made-up group on Facebook. Karen tried to push back, but each time she spoke, Riley answered with quiet facts. No shouting, no drama, just truth. The council reviewed the footage and ruled in favor of the Carson family. Karen left without the brace, but with none of the support she walked in with. A few days after the council meeting, Melissa was loading feed bags into the back of her truck outside the supply store when she noticed a familiar SUV pull into the lot. Karen stepped out, this time without the neck brace or fake limp. Her face was tight, jaw clenched, eyes sharp. She marched over, arms crossed, and stopped just a few feet away. "You think this is over?" she snapped. "You embarrassed me in front of the whole town. I've already spoken to a lawyer. You'll be hearing from them." Melissa didn't flinch. She wiped her gloves on her jeans, then calmly reached into her truck and pulled out a binder. It was thick, laminated, organized. She held it open for Karen to see. Property deeds, zoning approvals, legal training permits, and a signed grant from the Department of Veterans Affairs, with Melissa's name printed clearly at the bottom. Karen stared at the pages but didn't touch them. Her confidence started to waver. That's when Melissa spoke, voice low but steady. "This isn't about pride or power. It's not even about me. It's about them, the dogs, the vets they help, the kids they calm. You're not fighting a family, Karen. You're fighting the truth." Karen didn't reply. She just turned and walked off, leaving behind nothing but the sound of her own worn-out anger. It was early Sunday morning. Fog clung to the fields, thick enough to blur the fence line, but the security system still picked up movement. Melissa glanced at the screen, then stepped outside the barn. Sure enough, Karen was back, this time holding her phone high, talking to it like an audience was hanging on every word. She was live streaming again, walking along the side gate while mumbling about dangerous animals and illegal operations. The gate, still waiting on a latch repair, wasn't locked. Karen pushed it open like she had every right. She took a few steps onto the property, still filming, still narrating. That's when Buck appeared, standing solid in her path, not barking, not moving, just blocking. Tango flanked from the other side. Karen spun, trapped between both dogs. "Get back! I'm warning you!" she yelled, waving her phone. The dogs didn't budge. Then Melissa stepped out from the barn, quiet as ever. "You're live streaming yourself breaking a court order," she said flatly. Karen's voice cracked. "I was inspecting the area." "You crossed a locked gate," Melissa replied. "And you're still filming." A cruiser rolled up, headlights cutting through the mist. Sheriff Wade stepped out, calm as always. "We saw the whole thing," he said, clicking his pen. "Congratulations. You live-streamed your own crime." Karen's hands shook. Her phone slipped and cracked on the gravel. Moments later, Wade was calmly placing her in cuffs, while the dogs watched silently, calm as stone. After the arrest, everything moved fast. Karen's HOA quietly removed her from her volunteer position. Her Facebook group was taken down a day later, the posts deleted, the members silent. The story spread through town, not just because of what happened, but because of how it happened. No yelling, no fights, just calm truth and solid proof. The sheriff's office started getting messages from nearby counties, asking about the dog program. A few veterans even wrote letters of thanks. Riley got to work setting up the next round of therapy sessions. Melissa didn't talk about it much. She just kept training the dogs like always, steady, focused, with the kind of patience Karen never understood. In the evenings, Wade would stop by the barn after patrol, sometimes just to sit and watch the sun go down. The barn was quiet again, just the sound of paws on straw and the soft clink of water bowls. Karen wasn't mentioned anymore. There was no need. She'd had her moment and lost it. One night, Melissa scratched behind Tango's ears as he curled up near the heater. Buck stretched out nearby, tail flicking once. Everything was calm, like it had always meant to be. Because justice, when it's done right, doesn't have to bark. It just waits, and then it holds.